Ooh, ooh, ooh. Ooh, ooh, ooh. It's time for the Power Lunch Live Show. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Whitehouse. Every week it's time to tune in. For diverse voices, let the chat begin. Fun, free-flowing, unpredictable too. You never know what's coming, it's all up to you. The Power Lunch Live Show, come and see. Powered by random happenstance and serendipity. Michael Whitehouse is the host. Watch it live, you'll love this show the most. The Power Lunch Live Show, come and see. Powered by random happenstance and serendipity. Michael Whitehouse is the host. Watch it live, you'll love the show the most.
All right, welcome to the Power Lunch Live Show once again, the new edition, which actually I just realized we're about 2 months into this new one, so it's not even that new anymore. So welcome, couple quick announcements before we get to our guests. For those of you who are new to the show, behind me are hiding up to 4 exciting guests. How many are here? You're about to find out. But we're going to have an interesting conversation. What's it about? I don't know. We're about to find out. But it's always fun. It's always interesting. A couple of quick things for you to know that are also fun and interesting are after this show, you can join me and my community live in the Entrepreneur Village, guyknowsaguy.com/village at 2 p.m. Eastern. That's the hour after this one. And September 10th and 11th, join us for JV Connect. If you are looking for a networking event where you'll actually make connections, not listen to a bunch of people go blah, 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 but actually meet people and build relationships and collaborations and learn things and all the stuff you actually go to a networking event for, you're going to find it here. So definitely come and do that. All right, that's enough commercials. Let's meet some guests. Ta-da! We've got guests. Look at this. So I'm going to give each of them a few moments to introduce themselves, and then we're going to go into our first spotlight. The way it's going to work is that each one of them is going to have a few minutes to share their topic of interest, possibly the one they sent me ahead of time, possibly a different one. Who knows? We'll find out. Possibly something based on what the one before them said. We don't know. And then we're going to let it flow from there. So, Tracy, lead us off. Tell us about yourself.
All right, Tracy Repchuk. I'm a 9-time #1 bestseller, appeared in Forbes 27 times, was on the internet before it was called that, and I've spoken in 39 countries, and I take coaches and speakers through a journey I call the Legacy Life Code, where you align your divine message to your purpose-driven dreams so you can reach millions and catapult your income with an offer so powerful it has them begging to apply, while adding $1 million to your business in 2 years or less.
Fantastic. And next up is Gerard Grogans.
Yes, I'm Gerard Grogans, and I am a speech development coach. I help ordinary speakers become extraordinary speakers. One story at a time. I actually take them through a storytelling and story analysis process, and I help them find out who they are at the core so they can create a life and business that is truly worth living.
Fantastic. And our third guest is Ronnie Lowe.
Ronnie, just Ronnie. I'm Ronnie Lowe, life coach. That's where you got that, Michael. And I'm really glad to be here. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. I'm a certified habit coach, and I'm a master certified professional coach. What does that mean? Well, really, I help people get to their goals, their daily goals, to their big ones, one tiny action that becomes a habit, so part of them at a time, instead of the constant forced discipline or sheer willpower, because when you're constantly revving up that willpower, you get burnt out. Or you quit, or you fail and you try again and you try again. So with habits, because we are all our habits, you are your habit is you. I help people reach their goals, their dreams, their desires, one tiny habit at a time. And before then, I was also a certified personal trainer. And before then, I was in PR and in news. So I bring a lot of career changes when I'm helping people transition careers or grow in their career, or from their body to their business, because all aspects of your life affect each other in some way. So I bring all my professional background and history and experience and expertise, and really just my life experience as a woman, a wife, and a sibling, and a friend, and a human being.
All right. Well, welcome everybody. I can tell this is going to be an interesting conversation, as it always is. And yeah, that happens. I was actually thinking this morning because I think I'm at 116-day streak on Duolingo now, which is the most noticeable account that I see. But this is 2 months old, and prior to that, I did it for 14 months. People are like, Michael, how'd you get to 1,300 episodes on your morning motivation podcast and 240 interviews on the Guy Knows a Guy podcast? And I'm like, well, I did one, and then I did another one, and then I did another one, and I just kept doing that until I had a lot of them. They're like, yeah, that's the secret to getting your podcast past 10 episodes. Do an 11th. So for all you podcasts out there, if you want the secret to getting past 10, do episode 11. You're past 10. Boom. But Ronnie probably has some more nuanced approaches than
Well, the
mine.
number one thing in a routine is your habits. And the number one thing in a habit is repetition. People always think, and we can talk about that later, people always think it's how long, like 21 days, 40 days, 60 days. Nobody really knows. It's more practice, repetition.
So the key to habits is repetition. So the key to habits is repetition. So the key to habits is repetition?
Yeah.
The key to habits is repetition. All right. So.
Oh, I got that.
I was going to keep doing it until you laughed. Good, because we only have like 40 minutes. All right. So, Tracy, you'll be leading us off with your topic. So what are you going to be talking to us about today?
Okay, I didn't know I was talking to you. I mean, I always talk about the Legacy Life Code.
or just you can either expound on something or just introduce a topic for us all to talk about, whichever makes you happy.
Well, okay. How long would you like me to talk?
2 to 5 minutes.
Okay. All right. Well, really what I do is I actually help people create a legacy life. And when you do that, it's actually about creating that enduring mark on the world. It's about living it, not leaving it. And so when you really want to work less, make more, create income, wealth, and really embody a movement that teaches others to live their legacy as well, that is my focus, really. And it actually started years ago when I had a near-death experience. And from there, I received a message that said I wasn't done. I had a purpose. And I've really been striving my entire life to accomplish that. And it wasn't until 2 years ago that actually all the technology came into place that allowed me to do this for others as well. So I really help everybody to go through their clarity and their focus and put together a community, then strive to get more visibility. Then they move to the area of systems, scaling, ultimately philanthropy, where you're giving from your overflow. And last but not least is where they end up at that freedom level where you can do what you want, where you want, with who you want, when you want. And again, it goes back to that delivering from your overflow, that state of abundance, because it's really important that we aren't constantly draining the tank to do what we want to do. And so I primarily really help coaches and speakers who are constantly striving to get out of that sea of sameness, whether it be inconsistent cash flow, they're overwhelmed, they want to really take their process and up level it to position themselves as an ultimate thought leader. And then from there, we pull all of their assets together to create that $100,000 high ticket offer. And that's what I have been doing now for the last year with some incredible clients, and they are doing the same. That's the great thing, is it's a mushroom effect where they are doing it for others. I have a client right now who's going to spend the next 3 weeks in Italy. And she's just enjoying life now while she embodies her legacy life and trains others to do the same through the health and spiritual practices that she's capable of. And as a starting point, I actually send people to legacylifequiz.com. And that's where you can take the quiz you can get your Legacy Life score, and then we can jump on a call and take an assessment from there.
Awesome. Yeah, I love that concept of living it, not leaving it.
And
Yes.
as a starting point, I actually send people to legacylifequiz.com, and that's where you
Someone's
can take
watching Tracy somewhere else. I don't know who, because unlike Zoom, I can't see who's speaking.
I like
But
it. I'm
someone-
everywhere. See, that's my omnipresence right there.
Yeah.
Feedback.
Yep. Yeah. So Tracy, you mentioned technology, which is allowing you to do this now that you couldn't before. What technology is that?
Well, really, really, it started to be ChatGPT
Mhm.
because it made it simpler for me to help others, craft their identity, craft their right fit client. It helped in the creation of all of the elements for your presentations, for your scripting, all of these pieces, because before that, it was just struggle the whole way. And so it took it now, to weeks instead of months.
Yeah, I think that's a huge thing. I mean, there have always been progressions of technology that have been game changing, and I think for a lot of people, before I begin expounding too much, for everyone, we tell you don't need to raise your hand. If you have something to say, just jump in. It's a power lunch. We're just hanging out at lunch. So now I'm going to expound. There have been all these technologies, whether it was social media 20 years ago or email 30 years ago.
Fax technology. I mean, I had a piece of software. Like I started a software company in 1985 at the age of 19. And so I'll never forget this software that I developed that was used by extremely large corporations to send out like 1 million faxes a month.
Yeah.
Yeah. Faxes. Remember those days? Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, I started in the yellow pages, and then I got into the internet in 1992.
But even just basic stuff, 50 years ago, you needed 1 or 2 employees to have a company. You couldn't have a solo company. You needed a secretary. You needed a bookkeeper. You needed doing it solo.
An office, right? You had to have that physical location.
Yeah,
I
doing it
started
solo
that
wasn't
way.
possible.
I had a huge company right on the highway in this big building when I had my software company. And then it was funny. We realized, because I had 15 staff at the time, but we realized that nobody had ever come in, right? And then actually I changed the game in 1994. We went virtual way before. How long before we all had to go virtual, right? We went virtual, and me and my husband co-raised our 3 kids that were born back to back. And our 15 staff went virtual as well. And we've operated virtually now since that time. So when COVID came, it was normal.
But that's so incredible. It's like, and each level of technology, and I think it's kind of like surfing a wave. Now, I don't know how to surf, so I'm guessing this is how it works. But as far as I know, when you're surfing, if you're on the front of the wave, it's awesome. And you're riding and it's like flying.
Yeah.
If you are 6 feet back,
Yeah.
you're in the water, flipping over and drowning.
Yeah.
So,
and sometimes if you're in the front, which I have been, the wave comes right over and you're like gasping for air.
but I think, for entrepreneurs, we're at the front of the wave. And so we're using AI, we're using Zoom, we're using StreamYard, we're using social media. We're like, this is amazing. And then the rest of the world, which is apparently 96% of them, is the ones getting plowed under by it. And they're the ones who their real earnings are down 2% a year, and their jobs are getting worse and worse, and they're working longer for less, and because they're not realizing they can use all this technology to control their lives, to build this legacy, and they don't have to be dependent, and it's easier and easier to replace your income with a business than it's ever been, because they don't know. And so they're like, oh man, this AI stuff's terrible and it's stealing our jobs, and they want to take off their wooden shoe and throw it into the machinery.
Yeah.
That historical reference.
Yeah, I have a client actually right now that is in a job, and she wants out, and she's never really known how to do it. And then when I showed her, this was the formula, she was like, oh my God, I can finally break free. And so she's probably just a couple months now of being able to leave.
Nice. Yeah.
And the fine line really is, from what I hear from Tracy saying, the fine line also is, because I deal a lot with this, is being lonely as a solopreneur or entrepreneur, because the only people they see is like when their kids come home or they talk to their husband all day, so it's bringing back the human connection. And from what I hear from Tracy's, you show people how to not just depend on technology, but I'll use it so that they can still have their human connection. And even at their work, you still need to talk to a human being and see their face.
Yeah.
The thing I hate the most, and I don't like the word hate, are the phone prompts where you just cannot get a human being. And I start going, human being, human being, human being on the prompt, because we still, the number one thing for people to thrive is still human connection, and
Absolutely.
technology can help that.
Yeah. No, we just leverage technology. It is not meant to replace anything except a mundane task. And other than that, and that's again why, I talk about legacy life, because it's all about the relationships that we're building from here on out. Because when, one person's happy and the next ones are, that's the mushroom, and that's the positive effect that I talk about for sure.
Well, and talking about the Ronnie, if you're talking about that like, representative. First off, the coolest hack I ever learned is most of them are programmed that profanity will bring you to representative, because they know once you're swearing, you're upset enough that you're ready to like leave them or call the attorney general or whatever. And so if you can't, because I was like representative operator, just start swearing. About 2/3 of the systems are programmed that will get you to representative.
Okay, is this a hypothesis because you started swearing, or did you? Is it proven?
I heard it somewhere, and then I started using it, and it started working.
But if you swear in French, it'll just sound pretty, and it won't work.
Yeah. But once I realized that, I'm like, oh, okay.
Well, listen to Italian con Google Amici or something, right?
Yeah. So I just gave it like 60 seconds of, so I was blue in the face, and it would be like, you were being connected to a representative. Thank you. But two experiences I had recently, because technology can get in the way, like the endless phone trees, or it can make the call center so efficient that they can give good service. And there's two companies I work with. One is called Less Annoying CRM, and every time I've emailed them for support, I've gotten what looked like a human written response within 10 minutes. I pay $15 a month. They don't have a higher program. It's a $15 a month service, and the support is humans responding in minutes. And the other is DreamHost, which is a web hosting company, which again, I pay something ridiculous, like $120 a year. I had an issue with my website. I emailed them, and I think it was about 7 minutes to when I had a response. And the response was, "We fixed it for you. Here's what happened." It probably took them longer to type out what happened than it took them to fix it. But again, both of them, I pay them a pittance of money, and they have quick instant response because the technology is built so that they probably don't have to click through a whole bunch of prompts and screw around. It's an email. They read it, say, okay, I know what that is. Boom, let's fix it. There it is. Fix, done. Fix it for you. Here's what happened. It might even be a cut and paste, AI generated, like, here's what happened, auto generate, send. So they could, in 2 minutes, fix the problem. And they fixed 3 problems before mine that were in the queue because technology is facilitating human connection, not impeding human connection.
Yeah, and this is all about work-life balance. Everything I'm trying to free women from the shackles in the glass ceiling.
Yeah.
You don't free them from the glass ceiling, but you're trying to get rid of that glass ceiling.
Yeah, that's right. It shatters. That's right. We shatter the glass ceiling.
Yep.
So going back to technology and using AI, I've actually found that AI can actually help with developing your speeches as well.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
So once you have the format down, once you have the structure down, there's a company called 11 Labs that you can actually use that will actually help you to use your voice to create your speeches. So if you can write out the structure of the speech, then you can record it using 11 Labs, and 11 Labs will mimic your voice. And I did that, and I actually sent it to my brother, and he said, "Yeah, man, that sounds exactly like you." And I said, "That was my AI voice."
That's good.
Okay, but what was the difference between that? Are you saying that you give it the script and then it just fuse it out in your voice? Or what's the difference between that and the old-fashioned way? Do you remember tape recorders, or just recording yourself on your phone and practicing, or recording yourself on Zoom and practicing? What's the difference? I don't quite get it yet.
Yeah, you can do all of that. All of that's still relevant, but what happens is you'll have to record your voice, so it'll take maybe 20 minutes of your voice. You can record it in 11 Labs, and then it would use your voice, your inflections, your tones,
Oh, for the future.
and then you just add in the script,
Script, yeah.
and it will
Yep.
read
Okay.
the script.
So here's the thing: it's only audio; it's not video.
Yeah, it's only audio.
Okay.
Yep.
But
Yeah,
you
and
can use
There
that
are
for
ones that do video.
Yeah, but the applications are things like if you want to read your audiobook.
Right.
So, recording an audiobook, the way I do it takes 2.5 hours. The way professionals do it takes like 8 hours because, you need to do multiple versions and whatever. Or you put it into 11 Labs and you hit do, and then it takes as long as someone has to listen through it once to make sure it's all right. Because it does it flawlessly. It doesn't say, it doesn't say, it doesn't cough in the middle of recording. So it's great for those kinds of things like courses or trainings or those kind of things. You don't need to spend 14 hours recording everything. And, if it's a training, a pre-recorded training, that could be if it's a 12-hour course and you're pre-recording it. So double it to fix all the mistakes. Now you're talking about 24 hours at the mic to record this course, or 24 minutes of just plugging the script into 11 Labs. So yeah, it's really powerful it's great, time saver.
And that's the scary thing is, I live in La La Land, Los Angeles. So I used to do VOs, voiceovers, left it, but I used to do a lot in Spanish because I speak Spanish. So anyway, a lot of my friends are in the industry, and that's where the scary part is we're going to lose our voiceover contracts because AI is going to take over. So we have to evolve, because people have always said that through every age, from when caveman first invented the wheel to the industrial age. We have to evolve and see, well, where can you use your potential, your potency, your skills, your brain? And so it has to go more towards work with AI as opposed to fight it. Learn more programming, lean more technology. I'm not sure, but to keep an open mind to, well, I'm talented and I'm skilled in this area. How can I evolve into what will be needed?
What I
That's
think a lot of the move is going towards personal brand. So we've seen this. Sylvain Haché was on last week before, and he was talking about with music how this has been happening for 25 years in music, because nobody's played a drum on professional music in 20 years. It's been all drum machines. Yeah. And then over the last 15 or 20 years, all the rest of the instruments went away. And so it's all MIDI stuff. So that's how we saw it with the boy bands in the late 90s already, but it's now like all of...
I'm kidding.
Yeah. It's now like all of music that it's all computers making it. And there's a singer who gets auto-tuned. Because we were talking about AI-based music, which I've gotten really big into lately. Did you like that opening soundtrack? Because I can't sing or play an instrument, but I do know how to prompt one.
I know, me too. I love doing that.
Yeah,
it's a riot creating these little songs.
Yeah, but that's just
the real artist and the real concert type of thing. So that's where we evolved. It's like, you want to see the real artist, go to their concert.
Yeah.
So more people, even at 70 years old, 60 years old, they're still playing. And there's nothing like going to hear live jazz. So they're going to become two separate domains.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing is, because music, one of the things I'm using it for, I'm creating an entire progressive Christian music album. Because I find a lot of the music is more focused on like, things are so great for me, which doesn't really feel like what it should be. I think it should be more about like, this is what Jesus teaches. And I think that I have the tools, I'm making the music. So before, music used to be limited to people who either had musical talent or had the money to hire people with musical talent. Now you got an idea, you can make music. And that's really that's the biggest opportunity, is democratization. If you got an idea, you can now do it, because you can have what would have taken a team of 20, 30, 50 people at your fingertips on your computer for $10, $20, $50 a month for the tools. And so anyone with an idea can leverage it. And we've seen that in the negative side. Anyone with a stupid idea can get on social media and 1 million people can see it. Now we have technology, so anyone with a good idea can actually leverage it and get music and get their voice heard and get training and get, all this stuff. And that's it. If you're so fixated on, I am a voiceover artist, I get paid to do voiceovers, that's all I do. Without that, I am nothing. Then yeah, you're screwed. But
Right.
but at the same time, if you're like, okay, I'm good at voices, but I'm also good at this, and this, or I'm good at voices, I'm going to do a TikTok channel. And so the channel is going to be me doing all kinds of fun voices. I think her name's Tani Plattis, I think is her name, is a TikToker. Her video is, she does videos of like, here's 6 different kinds of commercial voices, or here's 5 different kinds of female anime voices, or here's, and it's really interesting to like hear her do the breakdowns of it.
Yeah, and take your own voice and become 10 different characters.
Yeah. So she's leveraging that like naturally, not with technology, but it's the character who's interesting.
Right.
She gets the views turn into money. Maybe she sells products or t-shirts or merch or whatever. And to make $50,000 a year doing that, you don't need 100 million viewers. You don't need to be mega famous. You need to be,
you have a niche.
Yeah. And so there's room for everyone to do that, certainly. Speaking of room for everyone, I'm going to have our next guest share his whatever he wants to share on before we just ramble on. So I did promise you give you a little spotlight. So, Jared, take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes and share with us a topic of your choice, which I feel like is relevant to this because you train speakers. So,
I'm excited. Definitely. I didn't know we were going to have all these different experts on actually speaking and brand development and stuff like that. So I'm excited definitely to be here. And, just, I guess, piggybacking off of the AI and speech development, because that's what I actually specialize in. So even though I use AI as a supplement, I still actually have to take my clients through a storytelling and story development process. So I'm kind of old school. I want them to be able to know how to develop their stories into powerful speeches. So, and so in order to do that, right, I actually, like I said, take them through a storytelling and story analysis process where I begin to break down, right, what their stories are based on who they've been in the past. And so a lot of times what I find out is that most speakers don't know who they are at the core, or they haven't looked at the totality of all their life experiences. So when they do start off to speaking, they kind of get burnt out because, like I said, they don't know who they are at the core. So speeches that they do develop is not based on who they are at the core. The topics that they choose is not, they're not passionate about it. So of course they burn out. So once you know who you are at the core, then your speeches will actually become natural because you'll be speaking from what you're naturally passionate about. And then once I help them understand who they are at the core, then we work on coming up with the topics, developing those speeches, and I take them through the whole process of kind of doing that. So that's why I wanted to come on and pretty much talk about, what I do as a speech development coach. But I'm listening to Tracy. I might need Tracy help too. So I'm like, okay, I'm open to networking. So
that's what this is about. Some people ask me what's this show about. And actually, I just saw our fourth guest sent me an email and said, "Oh, I didn't realize I was a guest. I thought I was an attendee." And I'm like, "No, you were a guest, but that's okay." The show is a mix of podcast, social media, live, and networking group. So a little bit of everything, and the right people tend to come together, which is what's so cool about it. But I love your point about who you are at the core, because I have cycled through a few different identities and tried them on over the last 4 years. So I got into my business as a COVID pivot. And it was basically one of those, at first it was, I don't know how I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. Oh, darn, I have to give up what I'm doing. I guess I just have to become a pure entrepreneur and follow my path. Oh, well. And that is pointed out, well, you could go back to, nope, definitely can't go back. no way I can go back now. COVID's ruined everything. Well, it hasn't really ruined. Oh, not totally ruined. Got to follow my path. So yeah, I kind of had the excuse to do this, and I've tried focusing in the neurodiversity space. I tried focusing in the event. I tried being the virtual event guy, which I'm a guy who does virtual events. I'm not the virtual event guy. And so, yeah, it was a lot of experimentation to be like, no, this isn't it. Oh, maybe. No, this isn't it either. Oh, no, this isn't it either.
Yeah. And that's not a problem either, because there are a lot of us who are multi-talented. And, we've been taught to narrow down your niche and just focus on one thing at a time. But when you're multi-talented, those other aspects of you are part of what you actually do. So when you look at the totality of all the things that you've tried, then you say, okay, these were aspects of what I actually do that made me decide to do what I do now.
What I just heard from you, and I have to throw this in before I forget, Gerard, is it's not what you do really, which it is. It's what you literally do, but it's who you are. Like I said when I came in here, and you said the core. Michael, I know I'm going all over the place. Michael, you brought in who you were to each one, not what you did. You brought in who you were to each thing you did, and then you were like, well, do I want to do this? Do I want to do that? But I bet you were Michael, the essence of Michael in each one. And like when I came on here, I realized I've evolved from when I got my college degree, and I have to pursue this because my parents paid for college, and it's what, and I've evolved from my jobs, and everybody thought, well, you have a great job, to what fulfills me. And dang, it took the pandemic to finally force me into, I guess I got to go virtual. I guess I'm going to go on that laptop. And, and I'll tell my story in a bit, but I brought in all my back history and I found what fulfills me, my purpose, at the ripe old age of past 50. No, but I'm 59 now, and it took everything that I brought along. So like what Gerard just said, it's not all the multitasking, it's the multifaceted person you are in your core, what you bring to it.
Exactly. Yeah. We are all the totality of all of our life experiences.
Yeah. And all those things can drive together to the same thing. So I was actually thinking, so Tracy was on a summit yesterday that I ran, and I was like, oh, look, I'm seeing Tracy again. And as Tracy was speaking a few minutes ago, I went back and checked. I'm like, wait, is this the same person on the summit? Do I remember? Because sometimes I'll have people similar names. I'm like, oh, she's. And then she got to the end. I'm like, okay, now I see where these connect. But to different audiences, she brought a different theme and focus. All that was driving to the same place. Because on the summit yesterday, Course Creator Summit, it was much more tactical. It was much more, here's how you build your funnel if you're a course creator and how you make that into money. Whereas today was much more about building your legacy and living life, which sounded totally different. Thus, totally different audiences would hear that and be like, that's me. So, this not being a course creator audience, so it allows her to be dynamic. And that's kind of the key, is to not to focus and be like, I have one message for one audience. It solves one problem ever. It's, I have this box of things and oh, you're looking for a legacy? Well, I've got this. Oh, you're looking to make money on your courses? I've got this same thing, but I painted it differently.
Yeah, I have the umbrella. Legacy. That's right. And then under it are all the different pillars, like online course creation being one of them, because I've been doing that for 15 years now. And so it's your topic was right up my alley. But at the end of it, right, once we get our course created, then what? Well, guess what? Now we're going to move this into a legacy realm. What do you want to be saying? Who do you want to hit? How many millions of people do you want to impact? What is the impact you want to make? That type of thing. And what's the money you want to make, right? So we start with the end, we work our way back, we take their core assets and skills, and then we plug it into the mediums that work for them.
Yeah, that was a tool to create your legacy. How do you do? Exactly.
Yeah. It's actually the fast cash tool. So, because people come to me in different realms, right? Some need money now. And so I'm like, okay, great. We're going to crank out a course. There you go. You got your money in there. That will set up a thing for that. But here's where your real purpose lies. And that's back at the legacy. And then I move them over.
Yeah. And I think Ronnie raised a really important point. And me with my ADHD and rebellious streak, I never got stuck in that trap. But I know a lot of people do, of the I went to college for this, so I have to do this, or my parents expect this, or I'm already 10 years into this job. I'm only 25 years from retirement. I guess I might as well stick it out, which is like that's sunk cost fallacy to the nth degree. But I've already put in so many years in this industry, so do I want to change? And not realizing that you got a lot of years, like there's a lot of time, and wherever you are, you should make the best move from where you are for who you are, and not worry about who you were or what you've done. And the crazy thing is, you spend 10 years in the whatever medical industry, real estate industry, whatever, and then you make some dramatic pivot, and you're like, oh, I'm throwing away all this experience, I'm throwing away all my knowledge, and then you pivot, and you're like, oh wow, like 40% of what I learned there is applicable here, and I have some killer solutions nobody knows because they were all trained here, and I was trained over there. And no one's ever thought of doing it this way in the manufacturing industry, but we do it all the time in the medical industry that way. And suddenly you're a genius, because I discovered that running events, I go from one event committee to the next. And sometimes I actually couldn't really fully engage, different local nonprofits and whatnot. I couldn't fully engage, but I'd visit some event committees to help out because I've run so many events. And they'd be stuck on something. Oh, how do we charge for, how do we sell tickets online? I don't know how to do that. They've been working on it for 4 years. And I'm like, here's the website, go set it up. I remember in a Rotary meeting once, I set it up on my phone for them. Like they were debating. They're like, oh yeah, I don't know. It's kind of complicated to sell tickets and take credit cards. I'm like, it's done. Like, what? It's done. I set it up while you were talking. Because I know, and not because I'm a genius, because the other group I'm in is already using it. So I do a website to go to. I know how to set it up. And so often that cross experience is actually more valuable, and the pivot makes more sense.
Yeah, I think that's valid, because there are a lot of people who are struggling with what should they do with their lives now. They're afraid of AI coming in, taking their jobs. I always tell them it's never too late to begin again. And so, George Bernard Shaw said life is not about finding yourself, but it's about creating yourself. Mm-hmm. And so there are a lot of people who, struggle with, what is my passion? What is my purpose in life? And I tell them, George Bernard Shaw said, life is about creating yourself, not finding it.
Finally.
Yeah.
And what's your passion now?
Yeah.
Your passion when you were 25 might not be the same as your passion when you're 55.
Exactly.
I was so scared when I became a coach, because when somebody first said, you should really be a life coach, and people I was coaching and I didn't realize it, I was talking to them, were like, God, you coached me really well. It was right out of the pandemic. And many women, because I was mostly dealing with women, I've always had male clients, but some of the women were telling me that their sisters or their bosses or their cousin, whoever, working out was the first thing to drop off their Google Calendar, because at the time, if you guys remember, everybody was working out at home at the dining room table, the kids were at home. So women pulled their big girl pants up and we took care of business, but that's just it. The bosses had to deal with helping their staff, their team, their company, whatever. And if you work somewhere, you didn't want to be indispensable because you didn't want to be let go. So people just didn't work out, even though I thought, but everybody's got a Peloton now, because they had to be constantly available on that email at 9 p.m. or whatever. And they didn't want to work out at home because they felt a little self-conscious. So I was helping women find, well, where can you work out? What pockets of time and what worked for them? But the whole point of the story is I decided to look into life coaching because I thought it was all woo-woo, and I took it seriously, and I decided to get trained for it, educated in it, and took one of the best ones. I'm still going up in levels. But when somebody first approached me with, it was a man wanting to change careers, completely different from what he did, I was scared. It's like, I'm not a business coach. But I went with it because it's like, wait a minute, I've transitioned in careers 5 times in my life. Hey, but I started applying what I knew and being a good coach, and boy, did he find what he wanted to do at his job. But when people started coming to me, I thought I was just going to get fitness and wellness. But when people came to me, we always ended up working with other aspects of their lives. Every aspect of your life impacts the other. Your family impacts your career, impacts your love life, impacts your dating, whatever. So at first I was scared to implement what I knew into areas I had not done. And now I'm not scared of it. But at first it was scary.
So I'm going to hand you the mic here for another couple minutes because it seems like you already got started on something. Just keep rolling.
Oh, I was going off of what Gerard said, but okay.
Yeah. Keep rolling.
No, but I love
when the universe tells me, then I hand you the mic.
I love the topics that you guys are bringing up. Well, I'm Ronnie. I go by Ronnie Lowe Life Coach because a client said that, Ronnie Lowe, like J Lo, and it just kind of stuck. So I put it on my website. And but I'm Ronnie Loiza, and I'm in California. And like I said, I was a personal trainer before. And when the pandemic hit, and I used to drive around LA, so I could only train 4 to 5 people a day, if that, because you drive around canyons and everything takes like 2.5 hours to get there, or an hour and a half, even though at 2 a.m. it would take 20 minutes. But everything closed down. I couldn't go to the boutique studios and I couldn't go to their homes. So I opened up the laptop and everybody trained on Zoom. And like I said, people were like, you should be a coach, because I was talking to them. And they really wanted to be heard during that stressful time. So I looked into it and I got serious about it. And I got training with an ICF accredited International Coaching Federation organization. And since then, I really noticed the same thing I noticed in my personal training. You can know, back then, you can know all the kinesiology, the anatomy, the cookie cutter workout programs, do this 3 times a week. But what it really was their mindset. I had to deal with people's mindsets and their habits. I kept noticing that same thing when I was in public relations. You had to deal with what people did every day as a routine and not get distracted and not get all stressed. And it was just mostly, okay, your habitual way of thinking. You're in the habit of reacting to things in a certain way. You're in the habit of communicating in a certain way. You can change that, because guess what? You weren't born out of your mommy's womb knowing everything that you know now in your behaviors. You taught yourself and you were taught. You conditioned yourself and you've been conditioned. So since then, I really took it seriously, and I looked up different habits and habit coaching. I'm like, wow, there are certified habit coaches. So I became a certified habit coach. And 40 to 50% of all of our days, no matter who you are, all the meta studies show, 40 to 50% of your day is a series of habits, from the second you wake up in the morning to when you go to bed at night. And the good news is you can ditch bad habits. I'm not talking addictions, like chemical addictions. That's a little different. I'm talking about your habits that you've just learned how to do and why. You can ditch the bad ones and you can create new ones. And I put this in any aspect of your life. Like if you want to get a better relationship, a better marriage, or most people come to me because they want to get productive habits at work, time management and focus. So it's not just about, okay, discipline yourself to, put the alarm and don't look at your phone. There are a lot of hacks, and hacks, sometimes they stick. Most of the times they don't. I call this the Post-it effect. You put that Post-it there, but then it just becomes part of the norm and you see past it. Or the alarm goes off and you turn it off and you still keep doing what you're doing. You know what I mean? So you get used to not doing that thing that you set those little hacks for. And a lot of people aren't into the rituals and the meditating or the journaling. It's like, okay, what will you realistically do? So I help people find what they will realistically do, and one tiny step at a time, to get what it is they want, to either be more productive or to not be distracted, or in eating or in exercise or whatever it is. Decluttering is a big one. One tiny action at a time. And I say action because a little action is a behavior. And I hook it up to something you already do. You don't add more to your already busy day. You add it to something you already do. And that action, repetition, Michael, repetition. If you keep doing it, it just becomes who you are. Voila, it becomes a habit. And a habit, by its very definition, is just innate. It's inherent. You don't have to force it, because it becomes part of who you are. That's why the old, I think it was in Atomic Habits, when you're a writer, what does a writer do? Write. Don't worry about the details. Right. I'm an athlete. What does an athlete do? They do their sport. I'm a runner. What does a runner do? I run. People start with like, I'm going to do a 10K, or I'm going to go to the gym 5 times a week, and then it falls off because you weren't doing that in the first place. So let's start tiny. And people are always surprised, like, oh, I can do more than that. Yeah, you probably could, but you're not. So let's start here. And it's a whole process. I help people think of like 10 ideas, and then we rate them, and we come down to like 3 or 4 ideas, and then we bring that down to 1. Work at one habit at a time. Because once you got that, it's in there, it's hooked, and you can progress from that. And also along the way, I really promote and I help people celebrate how they will celebrate. Celebrate that you're about to do it. Say it out loud. I'm going to do this. I'm on my way to do that. I'm going to do it. Or even it's like going, just one word, say it out loud, because you're telling your brain out loud, I'm going, and your brain goes, yes. And then as you're doing it, I'm doing it. And then afterwards, celebrate. Did it, done, whatever. Because when you say it out loud, your brain hears it and goes, noted, capable, did it, and you actually start enjoying it. And some people think it's silly at first. I'm like, let's find your kind of celebration if it's just one word. And at first they do it by give me a little text through Voxer, but then eventually it just becomes natural that they celebrate themselves, even if it's just mentally, because human beings want instant reward. That's it. We want instant reward. We want that dopamine. We want to feel like winners, achievers. And so you may have your long-term goal. Of course you need your vision. Of course you need your mission. Of course you need your strategies. But if you just keep looking at that end line, it gets hard and you may not reach it. You reach it by the little tiny celebrations every day throughout the day. And that's what gives you that dopamine and that reward, because you're telling yourself the truth. I'm doing it. I did it. That's just a truth. It's not out there affirmations and clicking your heels. Everything's positive. It's I'm doing it. You're giving yourself a fact. Anyway, that's what I love to do. So I can go on and on about habits, but I see that applies to anything. Anything.
Well, I think one of the key points you made there is about identity. We do what we are. So, when I was taking karate, before karate kept throwing my back out, I went to the karate class. It wasn't like I tried to go to karate. Like, I was a karate student. What does a karate student do? Goes to class. And so I went to class. Like, I'm currently acting in a play. What's an actor do? Go to the rehearsal. So it's not like, well, I'll try to get to the rehearsal. I check my schedule. Every single rehearsal from now till September is open. I'll be there because that's just what I'm not going to try to go to rehearsal. I'm like, if I can, because it's what I do. So, willpower. I especially when I talk to people with ADHD, someone recently talked to me and said, I've had problem with procrastination, this and that. And I said, nobody should be relying on willpower. ADHD people doubly so. So if you're procrastinating, because you don't have systems, and it's because you're trying to make yourself work instead of having systems in place that make you work.
And the systems, when they become your routine, they're natural. So it's not forced. Yeah. I want to throw one thing out. There was a study that came out, a Harvard study, like 2 years ago, with different countries. The people that showed the most self-control, you would think it's like, what, military? What? Yeah. It's the people that had the most self-control and had the most motivation and got things done all the time that they said they would do, relied on willpower the least. They didn't have to call upon it because they already had it in place. Systems, exactly that word. You made me think of it, that study. They already had systems in place that helped them. You take away the barriers or the challenges, what will keep you from doing it. And that's another thing, since I said the military, you always need habits actually help you be flexible, not rigid.
Yes.
Because if that's part of who you are, you have a plan B. It's like, I'm going to work out in the morning. If something happens, fill in the blank, then I'll do it then. If this happens, my boss needs something right away, and I'm in the habit of getting my emails done then, I'll do it then. You have to have your backup plan, because it's in you. I have to work out or I'll feel weird. I'm just using workout because it's the easiest. I have to do whatever because it's weird if you don't. So I have worked with 2 people with ADHD, and actually putting systems in place made them more flexible, not rigid. It's the opposite, because you have a backup plan. And since it becomes part of your identity, it'll get done. It calms you down. It's like, because I know ADHD, you're hyper focused.
Yeah. But it also removes the executive function, which I mean, all of us are limited, ADHD people more so. Like when you're driving, you don't think about how you turn the wheel and how you change lanes. You just think, I'm going to change lanes. When you're a new driver, you're like, hey, change lanes. Turn signal, check mirror, check over the shoulder, or turn. Like now, we change lanes, just like I'm going to change lanes. And you probably don't think about change lanes. Like I'm going to drive down the highway, and then, I passed a car. Look at that. And same thing, you have more flexibility. A new driver can't think about, how do I get there? They're just like, how do I get around? How do I not hit this car? Whereas an experienced driver, they've got systems. you have a system already in place for changing lanes, a system for dealing with traffic, a system. So now you're at the strategic level. And same thing, if you're not thinking about how am I going to write this email, how am I going to follow up, how am I going to whatever, like that just gets done. Now we can think of that next level of who should I write emails to? Who are the clients I should reach out to? Because you got to say, like, I should create a course. I know how to create a course. Tracy taught me how to create a course. I got a system. What should the course be for? Or, you know, do I want to deploy a course? Because it's just push button, course comes, because you've got those systems in place. Systems create freedom.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Speaking of Tracy, I get people that buy courses out the wazoo, and then they put them in the modules in their computer and they never finish. It's like, okay, let's get back to how about getting in the habit of, I'm going to do 5 minutes today. I'm going to do 5 minutes today. Well, 5 minutes, what will that get me? It's not how long of a time. Again, like, yeah, it's your brain will go, it's weird if you don't. 5 minutes, that's it. If you go 10 minutes, if you go 15 minutes, great, but don't force it. It's the same time, same location. This will age me, but remember, same bat time, same bat channel. Your brain gets used to it. So I see so many people that bought $10,000 masterminds, $30,000 this, and they think, yay, or they go to this great inspirational, motivational conference and they take everything home under their arm, like I'm going to implement all this, and then it just falls out from under their arm. It's because you weren't doing it anyway. So get in the habit of whatever you take on to set up a system of, even if I'm just going to do a little bit right now, the accountability comes in when you celebrate, because you love celebrating it. So just tiny steps get you further faster than this big chunks of stuff all at once.
Yeah. What I do with my clients to help them through that is we do a spreadsheet, I guess you'd call it, right? Our Google Sheets, and it has all the steps for their next week with a check mark beside it. And so they get to just do that. It allows me to monitor them at the same time, but then we get on that weekly call, we set the next ones, and we assess everything that they already did. And then when they start to do that, they know to show up on the call ready. They know to tick off all those boxes. It's like when you're going for the weigh in, right? Oh my God, I better starve myself for 3 days because I don't want anyone to see that I, ate. It's that deadline every week that they have that initiates the fact that they have to perform. And then ultimately they know they're coming, they know they have to do this, they know and that's how you get someone to finish a course.
And the accountability that you have for them.
Exactly. A course and or a coaching program is these digestible habits that they initiate. My days are embarrassingly time stamped. Every single hour is mapped out. I do it the night before. And that's how I maintain the level of productivity across all the things that I'm running, because I have 3-4 businesses. And so it has to be monitored. I have staff all over running different things. I mean, it's just, if I didn't have that, I would be a scrambling mess.
Yep.
Well, because remember, just real quick, I'm sorry, Michael, but when I graduated college, all the job requirements were must be able to multitask. Multitask was the big word in the late 80s, early 90s. And now they have found out, no, you can't multitask. You need to focus on each task at a time. That's better. You can have multi projects, multiverse, multifaceted, like Tracy, like me, like Michael. We can juggle, but we don't juggle them. We put it down. We take care of one thing at a time.
I do a bit of juggling, I have to confess here, because if I'm doing something here, my other computer is video editing. It's running through videos that you know what I mean? So I know how to multitask a redundant, almost, one of those things that
but you're not manually editing, but that's editing.
Berserk just kind of looking at it.
Yep. Well, and also remember, even when you're juggling, you're only holding one ball at a time.
That's right, because I'm like, okay, good. You rasterize, I'm back here.
Yep. And one more thing I want to share, and then we'll get to our final thoughts because we're coming to the top of the hour, is something Ronnie mentioned as well, which is, or at least alluded to, which is tie into things you're already doing. So don't try to change it all. So like one thing I started doing that actually got me more exercise. So I'm doing Duolingo, because if I don't, I lose my streak of 116 days.
Which language?
Huh?
Which language?
French.
Okay. C'est bien.
Yeah, so I can go back and back. But I realized if I do a plank while I do my Duolingo, I can exercise while I'm learning French. And I can hold the plank for about 35 seconds. But that's 35 more seconds than I would otherwise.
That's great.
And then also I feel like I'm really learning French. Yeah, like, but tying those things together, what I'm already doing, the process they already have, and then how instead of being like, I'm now going to add this other thing. No, I'm not. But
when I work out, because it's my time, it's like, I don't listen to music. I listen to podcasts and I get to know people and I enjoy it. It's like, this is my time now.
All right. So final thoughts, because we got 3 minutes left. So we'll go in our reverse order. So that'll be, no, I'll go the other way. Yeah. So Tracy, final thoughts.
Everyone is living a legacy, whether you know it or not, and everything that you do has a ripple effect. And so as the creator of your life, it's best to plan the type of legacy you want and live it. And you can do that at legacylifequiz.com or legacylifecall.com.
Awesome. And Gerard.
Yes, no problem. I want to say that it's never too late to begin again, and that you have a story to share with the world, and I can help you to develop it into a powerful message. Just takes it, believing in yourself, and taking the steps to learn how to do it. So I'm here if you need me.
Great. And no, not Tracy. Ronnie. There we go. Trying to sneak in again.
Well, along with all of that, yes, we are all set in our ways. Don't say you're not, because we all are set in our ways, in certain ways. So you can be set in your ways, but you don't have to be stuck in them. You can create new ways. You can reset your mind, thus mindset. And if you want to get a hold of me and chat, it's just a great chat. If there's something you want to bring up about your life, you want to change something in your life, then let's hop on board. You can find me at ronnielowlifecoach.com, ronnielowlifecoach.com, and my Calendly is in there, and we'll have a great chat. And if I can help you, yay, we'll see that. We'll both know. And if it's not to be right then and there, then at least we made a really good connection. And I also refer people to other people. So anyway, it was really fun being here at this Power Lunch. And again, you can be set in your ways. You are, but you don't have to be stuck in them, and you can create new ways.
Fantastic. Well, thank you. This has been great. Let me share a couple ways you can stay connected with this community. The first one, of course, is the Entrepreneur Village, where I'm headed right after this. So if you want to join a live conversation, come to guywhoknowsaguy.com/village, and I'll get you registered. And then just add the word Zoom to that, by the way, if you want the direct link. So guywhoknowsaguy.com/village Zoom. That's how you get in. And then you want to take it to the next level, join us in September at jvconnect.com. If you're looking for mentors, joint venture partners, clients, friends, advisors, resources, vendors, anyone, you'll either find them or people who know them there. So it is a place you want to be. So thank you to all of our guests. This was awesome. And join us next week. Same bat time, same bat channel, as Ronnie said, which I think is before my time, but it's certainly in my culture. So, and join us for another exciting episode of the Power Lunch live show.
Thank you.
Thank you.